What about like going back to Rajneesh Osho?
Yeah.
What do you think his function was in his, coming to the West, bringing what he brought, being this figure who
Hmm.
caused a stir, caused a lot of upheaval?
Yeah.
The way I just think of him, I love him. I think he's so funny. And I think he was like a mirror for these spiritually hungry Americans, and he gave people exactly what they wanted. And in doing so, kind of showed them that what they wanted was silly or false or.
He was a
And
trickster. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I also call him, I think he's the best, the greatest performance artist of the 20th century. Because I think the whole thing was like a work of art. It was just a big play.
Well, that's funny you should say that because at the time, when I was in college, I had a joint major and it was between fine art and psychology. And I started off painting, drawing the classical kinds of art stuff, but I really, really got into conceptual art. And many of my seminars are really performance pieces. So, for example, for about 4 or 5 years, I was doing a seminar for this magical mystery school. And we started off talking about ancient Egyptian mummification. But rather than doing the Apollonian, well, this is this and this is that, I created an experience where we literally did what I call the mummy wrap. We would wrap people up and they would stay in that state for a good hour. So
Hmm.
it was a performance piece that gave them the experience. So it was more Dionysian, than, something just cerebral. And that's where you have to meet the trickster. He is funny. Osho, is a combination of a performance artist and a great sage,
Hmm.
and you're never quite sure which he is. Um, and I think he loved that, but going back to what I said about the trickster and Osho is, I don't know that he was, I mean, he certainly was a real person. I mean, we know his biography, we know when he lived and died, etc. But this is his epitaph to make my point that he really represents change. This is his words, his epitaph on death, or was written for him. He was never born and never died, but only visited this planet Earth between, and they give the dates of his birth and death. So there is that kind of impersonality.
Hmm.
Um, the problem that I have with him, for all his wisdom and his encyclopedic knowledge, not to mention going back to, if you've ever listened to him, it sounds like you may have, forget about what he was saying. It was how he was saying it.
Hmm.
In poetry, they call it breath line poetry. And every word would be carried on a breath.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with what he was saying or not, it was just absolutely masterful the way he would vocalize these wisdom traditions. Um,
I, that's,
Profound.
I mean, that's so interesting because when I do my imitation of Osho, that's the thing I picked up on. And I've often wondered, like, what was going on there? Because I don't know if people haven't really listened to him. He had this way of speaking, and it'd always be like a hiss. Like you said, the words were kind of carried on a breath. And
Yeah.
it's the most peculiar way of
Mhm.
speaking. And I wondered, is this
Mhm.
because he's in a state while he's speaking? It's just kind of that's the way the oracle is coming through, or
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
it like a technique of kind of hypnotizing the audience, getting them into a state of
Yeah.
calm
Yeah.
and receptivity, like kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Well, I'm going to pick up on your word hypnotized, because it was hypnotic, very hypnotic. I mean, you find yourself entranced because he's revealing much of what we repress.
hmm.
So there's a story he tells that I really like, and it's a short story, and it has to do with this mean and very haughty, very wealthy magician, and he has sheep, but he doesn't have a shepherd. He doesn't fence them in, and so the sheep are just running all over the place. mostly away from him because he knows he's going to have them for dinner at some point. So the townspeople are really pissed off and say, they complain to him, and he goes, I've got a remedy. And the remedy is he hypnotizes the sheep, and he has them thinking that, that they're a lion, they're an eagle, um, they're even magicians. And what he's really communicating to them is that they're immortal, and that when the time comes for them to be skinned, don't worry about it. You're immortal. And I
Hmm.
think that's a beautiful metaphoric example. This goes back to Jung because Jung's interest in alchemy actually didn't start there. It started with his interest in Gnosticism.
Hmm.
And if you know much about Gnosticism, this world that we live in is a world of delusion that was created by the demiurge. And basically, we're living in this delusional world, where we are hypnotized and hypnotized in a sense that we we don't have access to direct knowledge, which is the gnosis.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'm trailing off on this word
Yeah.
hypnosis, but it does figure into where we live now. I mean, turn on the boob tube and we're hypnotized. I mean, it's so duplicitous that we will watch endless commercials put out by pharmaceutical companies, and they got these pretty pictures in the background, and then they list their side effects, not the least of which includes death.
Yeah. I know these
I mean, they
horrifying.
actually use the word death. They're actually saying this product will kill you.
I know. I mean, we're up in Canada if people don't know, but every time we travel to the States, it's like you get to the Airbnb or the hotel room, you turn on the TV, you see kind of what's going on,
Yeah.
and we see these ads that we don't get up here because there's
Oh.
legislation around it.
Oh,
You're not
really?
allowed to advertise like that. But watching these commercials, it's like every other commercial is a pharmaceutical commercial, and it's yeah, all these like happy people playing in the field, and then this guy very quickly saying like, "Oh, may cause vomiting, diarrhea, death."
Right. And they're not going out of business.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's arguments that say, they're mostly interested in money and less in health, and that, like medicines for dementia, for example, they prolong the disease, and
Mhm.
basically they're self-serving. They create these things that will, keep you alive so many more years that you'll keep buying their drugs.
Right. Keep the consumer alive.
I mean, by the
Um,
way, I have to add a caveat. I mean, as a practicing psychologist, if I feel somebody needs an SSRI, whatever, I don't hesitate. So, I mean, there is a place as long as
yeah.
you're, not, that you are walking the middle path, that you understand the pros and the cons.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
Hermes can bring you either way. Mercurius can bring you either way.
Yeah, like the pharmacon. It can be a
Yes,
poison or it can be a medicine.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pharmaceuticals, what is going on with the trickster and the relationship to the phallus? Like there is an aspect of the kind of the primordial, the inseminating, the creation, but there's also that aspect of the profane. Like I think it's in the Winnebago myth, and the trickster's got like this penis wrapped around his body, and it's detachable, and and all these different stories. You carry it around in a
Right.
box, and it gets lost, or
Well, it gets more than that. He sends it downstream to where the Indian maiden girls are bathing. That's a sneaky way of inseminating.
I
But
mean,
he isn't integrated. He
yeah.
carries his penis like on a backpack. He's not integrated.
Right. But I mean, does it have something to do with, when a man is overcome with lust, he kind of stops thinking and becomes more instinctual, more irrational,